somehow I lost a part for my engine, and there's a little block missing between these two, and as a result of that I've decided I don't want to have the engine on display, so we're going to mount it and then we'll put the panels around it. But you've seen it being built up, so that's the main thing. So we need to glue this into place next job, so it fits in there quite snugly. Again, it's not sitting as you'd expect it to do. Yeah, there's a little location hole in the bottom here, and a very small location lug there, so I'm looking to see if it's lined up with that. I think it has. Yeah, it has. Yeah, okay. That's sitting down. I mustn't have aligned it because that's sitting down much better now. So we're going to put a little bit of glue down on that location lug as a start point. And then we've got these little seats which sit on that little frame. And then this part sits on the floor pan, so there's no way that's coming back up again. So I'm just going to rest it in place. There we go, and push that down into place. Right, needs me to just hold it for a sec because it's wanting to kick up at the back. There's a bit of springiness which is actually in the plastic frame. I guess we'll sort that out when we panel up around it. So yeah, that's looking good. Okay, so next job is a little bit of photo etch that goes on the front of our radiator here. I've not actually cleaned the radiator up, so we'll do that first. So smooth off those sides. I've got a little nub there that needs to come back. This isn't painted, it's just been pre-primed. So what is concerning me when we come to paint is we've got this hole here, and that means you're going to see the engine through the hole, so we'll have to mask that off and then weather that front end, which, you know, not a problem. But there is a little strip of photo etch that needs to go just underneath the radiator there, so we'll put a little bit of CA on that spot there and that spot there. And then that just sits under there like so. That looks good, so I'm happy with that. Okay, there's a tiny clear part that mounts in this little hole at the back. Not sure what it is, but it as it's a clear part, it needs to remain clear. So it's actually inside the cockpit once the roof goes on. So I have to think about how we tackle this. It's another one of those little challenges that that Miniart like to give the modeler. So once you've got the roof on, you can't get to it. So we need to paint it before the roof goes on. So I just need to think about what does that mean? What does that look like? How am I tackling painting some of this? Because I hadn't appreciated, you don't appreciate when you look at this, that you've got a little part tucked behind a pillar and that you're not going to be able to get to it. And because these are open, how we're going to mask it? Well, I'm going to mask it with sponge, but then will I be able to get in to paint it? So I need to clean up the roof section and then just have a look at what we've got in the way of visibility. So I'm almost at the point of building more sub-assemblies and going, do you know what? We're going to build the wings, we're going to put the tail on, and that sort of thing. So so that we can shove it together and paint it all. But there is a lot of sort of stop-start with this build, because you've got to stop and paint bits before you do. Because, you know, now that's in, painting this bit in the leather, dark leather that we're going to paint it in, is going to be more tricky. And what colour should that be? I'm not sure that it actually tells you in the instructions particularly. Just trying to find where we put it on. Oh, here we go. Yeah, no, it shows you the part, doesn't give you a colour. So is that aluminium with a glass top? I imagine it's the compass, to be honest. So I don't know, I might paint it aluminium just to have it stand out against the yellow and black of the paintwork. But what we've just done is put that part in there on step 20, and now we're going to look at installing the radiator, which is also part 20. So radiator fits on there like so. That fit looks good all the way around, so I'm quite happy with that. So if we just position it and hold it in with my finger, we can run some liquid poly into that. There we go. Just let that capillary in. And I'll just hold it there for a moment. That's sitting there quite nicely, actually. I think I've managed to bend the photo etch a bit, but I can simply straighten that. Right, okay, so that's on, and yeah, that's looking good, I think. So we can put that down to one side. So we've already installed the back piece. I'm not going to install the door straight away, but we are going to need to test fit it, but I think we can do that once this is installed and on. So next thing is to check the fit of this. I'm just checking that I've not missed anything on the cleanup of this part that's gonna get in the way of the fit. There's a little bit of seam there. So we've still got to put the glazing in here, so we'll do that in a sec, but let's just test fit this. That goes in there nicely. Just looking at this radiator, doesn't like the position of the radiator. I'm taking the radiator off. We're going to fit that after both sides are in. That makes more sense to me. And that's actually sitting proud slightly. So we're going to have to do a little sanding work there. There's a little step just on that corner there. I'm not worried about that paw joint because that's going to get covered by the wing. Yeah, that's going to go in okay. So we can look now to put the glazing in. So that's parts GB6 and GB8. So I'm going to clean these up and then we'll just glue them in. So just test fitting the top piece of the engine cover, and what I'm finding is you can't actually close that up because of the height of the rocker covers. So the engine is in the correct place, but the rocker covers are such that you can't sit this down on where it wants to go. It's leaving a gap. So as we're not going to see the engine, I'm just going to nip off the rocker covers at the front here. So I'll get my older cutters and just nip that off. There we go. That should be enough. So I'll have another go. My manifold broke off while I was test fitting, so I've threaded it through the engine cover, and we'll leave it in there now. Yeah, it's still not fitting. So another fit problem with this kit, which isn't ideal, is it? Still not convinced that's fitting properly. I think the engine is just too high. So these are the parts that fit on top of the pistons that's causing the problems. So we're just going to whip them off. There we go. We don't need any of that anyway. So I've removed the pistons now. I want to keep the front one on because that one could be visible. There we go, that fits nicely now. That's a real nice fit now. So yeah, there is an issue if you want this displayed closed, and the issue is the engine is too tall. So yeah, I mean, makes me wonder if they ever actually proof built this, because there are so many basic fit issues with this kit. It's really becoming annoying. So that fits. We've got side panels here that I need to clean up and just make sure that they fit as well, and then we can start gluing that together. I'm going to put the grill on last because I think we might have to square up the front end before it goes on to make sure it's fitting flush. So all little trials that I'm being a little bit more guarded about the fit of this now, because it seems to either fit really brilliantly or not remotely. There's no middle ground. There's no, oh, that just needs a tweak. It's, you know, massively off or perfectly good. Okay, so let's see, which panel is that? Must be I don't know. I think it goes that way. No, it can't go that way. Right, let me have a look and then I'll come back. Right, looking at the instructions, the panel gets glued onto this bit here, so it's not following the line I was expecting. So it glues onto there like so and follows that line sort of halfway down. So yeah, we just need to make sure it fits nicely onto there. So we'll glue it onto there first and then line it up with the main body, which is bothering me a little bit. Obviously we don't need to worry about painting and weathering this part now. Yeah, I'm a bit worried, but this isn't going to fit right, but hey. Yeah, you can't actually fit it wrong, I don't think, but trust me, I can always manage to fit things wrong. So it goes that way like that. Yeah. Okay, different glue. I think we'll use the slightly thicker precision plastic glue for this job. Okay, so let's get this on. That looks good, I think. So the part that I thought would be an internal part ends up being an external part. It's a very delicate construction, as always. Right, while that's drying, I can look at cleaning up this part. So I'll come back to you in a sec. Okay, I've had to remove a bit of the manifold because once again it was fouling the fit of the part. And that looks right. I mean, the fit isn't positive because there's no location places. You're just putting the part on top. So that's why I've gone with a thicker glue, because I want this to dry a little bit, and while it's still able to be manipulated, we're going to test fit it, because that has got to fit onto here. And I hadn't appreciated that those panels go on the inside like that. Can you see? I hadn't appreciated that at all. So as I put this into place now, and I look at it, I can see I've got all sorts of fit problems. Now let's get this a little bit drier first. So while my glue is drying on this piece, which is really bothering me, I think it's going to be a disaster. Yeah, while the glue is drying on that, and I'm just going to hold it in some self-locking tweezers while it dries. I'm going to look at building up the tail sub-assembly next. So we've got this going into here, and then that goes in at the back end. So we can clean this up, and then we're going to look at the wings and just jolly this along now, because I'm getting a little bit frustrated with this kit. You can probably tell that the lack of positive part placement is a little irritating, and the lack of quality fit is a little irritating as well. So yeah, it detracts from what should be an enjoyable build of an enjoyable subject. So let's just clean these off. You always have to be careful not to overdo it, because you can create gaps by sanding. I've certainly done that before myself. There's a little bit of visible seam there that my sanding stick won't get into, so I'm just going to scrape that flush. Okay, all good. Okay, let's do a test fit of that. So there we go. See, the fit of that pretty good, really. Not going down at the corners. Probably that. Still not going down at the corners. What have we got at the corners? We've got location lugs. Let's take them off. There we go. That goes down perfectly now. You often find that location pins cause a problem. Yeah, so I prefer, rather than pins, like a little tab, a line that it sits behind or something. But these location pins here are working fine. So we can just pinch these parts together and glue them up. Have to be really careful with this, because the ribbed texture allows the glue to shoot down and it goes straight under your finger if you're not careful, and then you've got fingerprints that you didn't want. Okay, that's our tail bits done. That looks good, and that is going to fit on here ultimately, like so, and then we'll get clamped in by our roof there, and then we'll put the tail fin on the top. So that pretty much gets me to building sections for the wings. So I think I want to do that, and then we'll come back and do the delicate bits before the painting, photo etch and that sort of stuff. So there's a little bit of modification if we're doing the wings not connected. So there's all sorts of little bits of fun to play with. But I think we'll start with this here, cleaning up the tail, and these two bits which we can then glue into place. Yeah, I think that'll be a good next step. Okay, so I've just dropped this into position and it's roughly fitting okay, except for this bit here, which is just needs pulling in and holding into place as we glue. So I'm happy to glue this in now, so that's what we're going to do. It's a bit of a funny shape, I hadn't appreciated it, but you do get an understanding of how this was brought together and built up. It's quite fascinating really. Sometimes you learn what the engineer was thinking. Just hold that there for a sec. Can glue that bit in as well, that fits really nicely. And if we swap hands, fit on this side isn't quite as good. Not quite sure why, but it's not. Oh, suddenly found this move. It's needlessly faffy, this. Anyway, there we are. I'm just gonna make sure everything's not moved. That looks okay. So I think I'm just gonna hold that there for a moment, and then we'll finish gluing up when it's set on this side. Right, so I've got all the parts out for the wings. Slightly different arrangements because this wing is the one that's going to be detached from the aircraft in the transport position, and this one's going to be attached. So we have a couple more parts on this side. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the attached one up first and get it installed, and then we can do this one separately. So I'm just going to move all of these parts out of my way for a sec. We'll do those next, and we can do most of that off camera. So what you've got is two different sections. You've got the wing itself with the aerial on, so that's pretty much that. And then you've got the wing root, which is attached to the aircraft first, which is made up of these four parts. So we're going to do that first, then that can be installed and drying. So this is the edge that goes against the fuselage, and then this straight edge is what's going to butt up to the, or the wing's going to butt up to that edge effectively. So let's just get my sprue bin. Just nip those stubs of sprue gate off. So they build the end of the wing up out of 3 parts. Not quite sure why that is, but I guess strength is part of it. Okay, so we start with clean up of this flat edge. I think we want something a little bit more abrasive. There we go. So that's good. On this curved edge it's a bit more problematic, so I'm just going to carefully trim the nub down a little bit. And that's okay. Now let's have a test fit of that, because we've got location pins, and yeah, location pins are causing a gap. So quite often it's because they're sort of wedge shaped and they're a bit thicker and they only really go in at the thin end. I think we're just going to ditch them. See how that fits now. Yeah, perfect. Nice and closed, no gaps. So we can't quite glue this in yet. We've got this piece to install, which you're only installing if you're attaching the wings. So goes in to here like that. Seems to be correct. So let's just put a bit of glue on that. Obviously this won't be seen, so we're not bothering with cleaning that part up. But I think it'll become a guide for the wing root. So that can now be glued in theory, but I'm not going to. We're just going to put it there because we've got this to build up and I want to test fit this before we sign on the dotted line of adhesive. So this absolutely needs to be cleaned up because it it's going inside the wing, so if there's any lumps or bumps on this, it's going to cause you to have a problem with the fit, and we don't need to create any more fit problems than we've already got. So all the surface, all the way around. To go a tad coarser. Bear with me. There's quite a bit of a step on this, so I'm going 220. There you go. That deals with that quickly. So this part goes inside of that part like so. So that fits okay now, we've sanded that up. Okay, that's that cleaned up, so we can glue that in now. There we go. And then this part goes on the other side. There we go. We'll glue that in. So they're using a combination of this part and a wing brace. So this, I think, will pass through there like so, but that has to fit into this. So this is what I'm interested in. Does it do it? Does it not? Okay, so I see how that fits now. So I need to make that surface much better. I thought it was going inside. I thought it was going to sit inside the wing, but it doesn't. So we need to tidy that up. I think. Yeah, so we'll go 400 to start with, using the sponge so it can follow the curve and we don't lose any shape. Okay. Then we'll go 6, opposite direction, helps take out that witness of sanding much quicker. Eight. Yeah, we're getting there now. So this is a 1000. Then we're at 1500. Then we're on 2500. And then finally 4000. And that's probably the smoothest bit of plastic in the whole kit now. And certainly will look a lot better when we offer it up next to our part. So let's just have a look at this. So this is ready to be glued in now, so we could do that, and then this part will go in here and actually will look really good there like that. So yeah, that all fits nicely. So I think just want to look at this back edge. So the front edge fits nicely, back edge is being forced apart a little bit there. More location pins that don't work. Yeah, that's much better. Much better. Okay, so I think we line it up at the forward edge first. Get some glue in there. And then put some glue in that seam. And then glue on that back edge. Just push that in slowly. There we go. Perfect. So I'm just going to hold that in place for a moment while this glue cures, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so now we can look to glue this part in. So that's going to go in there like so. I'm just going to push that into place, and then we can get some glue in the joint. There we go. So that's that wing root section done. That looks good. So I think I'm interested to build up the wing root on the other side just to compare the difference. But this is all dry now, so I want to have a look at the radiator first. So let's have a look at that. Oh, that's going in better than I expected it to be honest. Yeah, I think that can just be glued in. Okay, all good. Right, so let's have a look at doing the wing root. I'm going to clean up all the parts and then I'll come back to you when we're ready to install. Okay, we start with, we've got this intricate little bit of frame because obviously this is going to be visible, and this little part goes on the back here, so we start by gluing that in. And then this piece is going to attach onto there, and we already know that we're going to have a fit issue, so I'm just going to check how bad it is. Pretty awful at the back, so that needs a good sorting out. Not too bad at the front, we might get away with it at the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrape some paint off the joint. Which probably mean we'll end up with a gap. I'm trying my hardest not to get a gap because filling that corrugated surface won't be fun. Right, let's get some glue in that joint. Fit on this side is better than on the other side, definitely. I haven't had to remove the pins on this side. Location pins all sat nicely, so yeah, interesting. And then we're installing this inside like that, and it sits on the outside mainly, so just check that's all cleaned up nicely. Yep, I think so. There we go. That looks pretty cool. There we go, nice. Very, very nice. So happy with that. That's our wing root for that side where we're going to be displaying the aircraft. We need to just paint that aluminium, including that little bit there, but that's easy to do. Get our brush in there easy enough. Right, so that means we're now on building the main wing, and as I look at this, it makes sense for us to build up this bit first, because this has got the location points and things for some of these bits. So we start by removing these okay. I'm just interested to see what the fit is likely to be like. Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be okay. Just take those nubs down. So I'm a little concerned. We've got pins right on the edge here. We will see. Right, so we have this piece here, and that goes in here like so. So we can just glue that in straight away. And then there's a smaller one for this end. And on both occasions we sit the part on the outside of the location ridge. And I'm using the length of the ridge for positioning and making sure that the slots are lined up with that little run. So then this piece goes in, and we'll leave this out if we're doing the wing attached, and there's a little groove line, you can just see there, and we've cut it there if we're going to have the wing detached, which is obviously our plan on one of them. This is the attached wing that I'm doing here, so again, another part that won't be seen, so I'm not worried about it looking a bit rough. So we slot that in, that checks that everything is lined up correctly, which it appears to be. And then we glue that in at the joint there, run some along that edge. There we go. So we've then got a flap to build up. So we'll clean that up. Now this has photo etch parts that goes on it a little bit later on, so there's no positioning of this flap, it's just put in place and then it stays there. You've not got options or anything. Okay, and this one's a bit more tricky to clean up because we've got the location pegs on this side. Fortunately wide enough to get in with my sander. It's all good. Right, let's have a look. It's actually quite thin, very flexible this, so they've done a good job of not making it oversized. Right, that seems to fit together okay, so I'll get some glue into that. Okay, I'll leave that to dry while we clean up this other wing half. Okay, right, now we can see what the fit is like between these two wing halves. Actually not bad at all, and then that can be inserted after the fact. Yeah, I don't see anything being held apart. So we can start gluing. That's nice and quick and easy, isn't it? Redeeming itself, this kit, as we get to the wings. This is all going together really nicely. Last little bit. Yeah, no issues there at all, doesn't need clamping. That's really nice. So let's put the aerial on in. There we go. Get that aligned with the trailing edge. Okay, that is that wing done. And that should just slide into this now, like that, which it does perfectly. So I don't see any reason at this stage why we shouldn't glue that in. So that's what we're going to do. There we go. First wing gone. So on with the build of this. I've been having a play with the roof and I'm fairly confident we can glue this in now. There's a lot of masking that will have to be done with sponge because these are open. The instructions want you to put a clear part in, but it makes no sense to do that until the painting is completed, really. So We do have an inside section which has a light, so we need to have a look at that, painting this up before, and installing the light before we go any further. But effectively that's ready to go. So we've got the other wing to build up so that we can do some painting, and we've got a door, but we can do that later, but we need to do it before the painting. So I think wing is the next job.